Hello, 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 my friends. Welcome to the Michelle Chalfant Show. Woo! What if I told you that anybody can heal anything? Yes. I'm sure you're saying, well, maybe, but, right? Wait till you hear the conversation I had today with Robbie Holtz. Wait till you hear what she has to say. And here's the beautiful thing is that the way that we heal ourselves is much simpler than you would suspect. But what her husband went through, he had MS and was healed from MS. So I'm just telling you, you're going to want to hear this story. She goes through that. She talks about, and he became an international healer after this, as did she. They talk about the whole journey of walking through MS, how that healing happened, what his journey was all about, what her journey was about. And guess what? Anybody can do what she's talking about today. Anybody. So I cannot wait to hear what you think about the show. Drop in the comments what you think about the show because I love hearing from you guys. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Robbie Holtz, but I do want to mention also if you're someone that has any issue at all with setting boundaries, do you feel stuck? Do you feel guilty? Are you not able to set boundaries that stick? Are you someone that is overwhelmed with setting boundaries? Are you someone that doesn't even know the first thing about setting boundaries? That was me. Yep, that was me. I totally, totally get you. Which is why I spent many, 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 many years learning what what the heck is going on with the boundaries? What do I need to do? How do I need to change? What are the boundary scripts? What are all the things? I've got it for you. I'm teaching a live course on February 20th and giving you all of it because now I know how to set healthy boundaries, but I didn't for most of my life, at least the first third half of my life, let's say. But I learned how to do it. So check out the course at michellechalfant.com/boundary course. And if you can't attend live on February 20th, it will be recorded and then you have it forever. So again, michellechalfant.com/boundary course. This is the course we all should have had, my goodness, when we were probably 10 years old, 12 years old, and we could have spent our whole life then setting healthy boundaries. So there you have it. All right, let me tell you just a little bit about Robbie Holtz, and we're going to jump right in. She's an international respected healer, medium, frequent media guest, and the author of award-winning books read in over 46 countries. Secrets of Aboriginal Healing and Aboriginal Secrets of Awakening, as well as other books that she's also written. She has used these Aboriginal healing techniques to heal herself from hepatitis C, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and also treatment-induced temporary brain damage. When I tell you, she's amazing. Can't wait for you guys to meet her. So here we go with the one and only Robbie Holtz. Welcome to the Michelle Chalfant Show, Robbie Holtz.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh,
Excited.
me too. I was just telling you, gosh, I've read some of your books in a matter of days because the stories that are in these books, it's captivating. Like it was better than any movie I've ever seen. I was like, oh my gosh. So
Oh, thank you.
thank you for being on the show. I think we're going to have a very deep conversation today around a lot of really interesting topics like healing. How do we heal disease? And it's not as difficult as we think. Can I say that? Would that be okay to
Right.
say?
The mind really loves to complicate things. It's more
Yeah.
simplistic than we imagine.
And I love that you have extremely direct experience with this in your own life and Gary and thousands of clients that you guys have worked with over the years.
Yeah.
And I love breaking healing down. So I'm just thrilled to have you on. So thank you again for being here. Um, let's talk about Let's start out with Gary, your husband. So again, I don't know, maybe some people have heard of you, but let's just pretend nobody knows who you and Gary are. Why
Okay.
don't you start with Gary and your life and what
Okay.
happened because it's a fascinating story. So everyone listening, buckle in. It's incredible. Like really incredible. Incredible. But summarize, of course you're not going to give away everything in the book, but
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
no.
summarize like your story. It's a beautiful story.
Well, they were pretty intense stories, to be honest with you. Gary was a well-known, highly respected physicist, globe-trotting all over the world with that, award-winning on magazine covers as a physicist. So he was pretty much a scientist where it's black and white.
Mhm.
And if you can't prove it, it doesn't exist. And he ended up with multiple sclerosis, and he probably had about 6 months left to live. And the doctors told him that. And he did not want to leave this planet. He wasn't ready to die yet because he still had young children and he wanted to be around for them. So Gary, being the genius that he is, he researched it and found out that there were Aboriginal healers in the outback of Australia that were renowned for their healing abilities. He contacted them. They have two of the members of that nation or tribe had telephone communication because they had children in cities, and so they were in cities. We go into all of that and the secrets of Aboriginal healing. But he contacted this very remote tribe, and in 2 weeks, he was out there in the desert with them in a wheelchair, literally as unloaded as cargo from the plane in this wheelchair because he had MS and he was a quadriplegic. So he had no feeling from the neck down.
And he was how old, Robbie? Remind me how old he was.
Boy, that's a great question. I'm terrible with numbers, but this was he was probably in his 40s.
There were some beautiful synchronicities. So, but even to how he heard about the Aboriginal beings
Yes.
or people, because he had 6 months to live, and he
Yeah.
was in a listening to jazz somewhere,
Right. Right.
and this is why I don't believe in coincidences ever. Everything is synchronistically set up
Right.
for us.
Right.
And can you tell it just a little bit of, because that was like, wait a minute, I mean, this total left brain guy
Right.
is listening to jazz, has 6 months left, wants to be with his children and grandchildren, doesn't know what to do, and meets this woman.
Yes. He went into a jazz bar to just kind of soothe his soul from this devastating news that he received.
Mhm.
And through a number of, like you said, synchronistic events, he ended up meeting this woman who was from Australia who said that, and he's the one who told her, she told him about the Aboriginals and how they had this amazing healing abilities and how to get a hold of them. And so he immediately called them, and they knew he was coming before he even knew about them.
So
They were
crazy.
waiting. They said, "We've been waiting for you for months. What took you so long?" And he just found out about them. So
Wow.
I mean, there's just so many strange things for this left brain scientist, but he was quite desperate.
Well,
So,
and the Aboriginal people don't communicate with people outside
no,
of their tribes. Like, explain that a little bit, because this is a huge deal that all this is happening.
huge deal,
Yeah.
huge. So they stay remote. But like I said earlier, there were like two of them who had connected to, I call it civilization in quotes, but the rest of them had stayed remote, had not encountered white people at all, had deliberately safeguarded themselves in the outback. And the outback is huge. I remember taking an airplane and flying for 5 hours and over the outback, and that's just to get us to the middle of it. It's just gigantic. So
Mm.
they have plenty of opportunity to stay remote away from Western civilization. And he contacted the one guy that he had connection with from the woman in the jazz bar, and he got him out there 2 weeks later, and he's in the outback with this tribe nation
In a wheelchair.
in a wheelchair as a quadriplegic, so he
Oh
can
my
barely get
God.
around.
Mhm.
And and this is what most people don't recognize, he spent 10 days with them. That's all. And in that 10 days time, he started being able to clumsily walk again. When he went back on that airplane, he was clumsily supporting himself on the airplane seats as he walked down the aisle. And he regained feeling in his body that he hadn't had for 7 years.
Wow.
And then was no longer a quadriplegic. But the biggest change, Michelle, was the emotional one, because he realized that there's a lot that can't be explained that's in the gray area, but it's real nonetheless. And they gave him their healing secrets. Now, this is an ancient, this is 60,000 years old, actually longer than that.
Mhm.
But they've been around, and they passed this information on from word mouth to mouth, from generation to generation for 60,000 years. And they gave this healing information to this man, to Gary, because they said, it's time to get this information out.
Mhm.
You have the credibility to take it out. He had no conception of who the Aboriginal people were, so he was not tainted or prejudiced at all, but they knew he could get that out.
Mhm.
And so he took that information out with their blessing at their request and took the secrets of Aboriginal and, and healing and put it in a book. And when he, here we are now, years later, that those books are in 46 countries because it resonates with people. I keep finding more and more people sending me emails. That's how I know what
Mhm.
countries. I mean, India was just recently added, Korea. It's very interesting how this ancient information resonates with people as the truth. So they gave their healing information to us because they said, we really don't understand, we, Western civilization, don't understand how healing really works. It involves the body, the mind, and the soul. All three are
Mhm.
very involved. And if you have all three that are aligned, the body, the emotions, and the soul, spirit, if they're all aligned, anything can be healed. Doesn't matter what it is. And so that's the 5 easy steps that I shouldn't say easy, it depends on who you are. I was resistant to some of those steps, but the 5 steps to healing that will help you heal anything.
Wow. And I love again that here's Gary, not a healer, not a right brain kind of guy. He is left brain all the way. He is a scientific guy. So he comes home and then he goes back to school though, and he learns about nutrition and what was the other thing he learned?
Psychoneuroimmunology. He
Okay.
came back and got a doctorate in immunology, psychoneuroimmunology.
Okay.
He also took a lot of courses on nutrition.
Hmm.
I don't know if it was some kind of a degree in that, but he already was a physicist. He was already a doctor, but this just lit him on fire because it changed his life so dramatically. This was his soul's intention, right?
Clearly. Yeah,
So he
clearly.
came back and he also started developing, Michelle, the same abilities that he noted with the Aboriginal people that he was with.
Hmm.
He started communicating to his spirit guide, Angel, who was with him, Julie. He called her Julie. He started being able to see what the Aboriginal people could see. They could see inside the body. They could, he could start remote viewing. He started becoming more telepathic. And
Hmm.
it's interesting that when he became telepathic, the people that knew he was communicating to them always were the autistic people.
Interesting.
They always knew he was communicating with them. He could communicate with animals. In fact, that's how he started developing his healing abilities. He started working with animals, racehorses,
Mm.
and it's just really a fascinating story. And so that's what we put in this kind of the sequel, the Aboriginal Secrets of Awakening, is he came back and he started developing these healing abilities that the Aboriginals had woken him up to, and that there is so much there on the other side waiting to assist us. And really importantly, the power of the mind. The
Yeah.
power of the mind and how to use that, because it's a powerful tool, but a lot of us don't realize how we can be creating dis-ease with the mind,
Hmm.
with our emotions, with what we're focused on. And that's a big part of, I think, recognizing how to heal is not just healing it, but sustaining that healing, not creating it again. So
Yeah.
that, we tell the story about how people can go in and have tumors removed, cancer removed surgically. But if you're doing the same thing again with the mind and the emotions, it will create it again. And what Gary learned when he was in the outback was that he had a really abusive father who was an alcoholic who used to beat him, very abusive. And Gary, with this brilliant mind of his, learned how to numb himself to that until he actually numbed himself physically with the MS. And the Aboriginal people were so generous and so loving to give him this information. And they helped him realize you can't heal that MS if you don't forgive your father.
Mm.
He had to learn that that was a gift in
Mhm.
many ways, his father. It helped him, and the MS was a gift in many ways too.
Mhm.
That's what Gary started to realize, is it slowed him down. It made him in fact, at one point, he said that that wheelchair was the best thing that ever happened to him because it made him realize what's really important. It's not the successful business. It's not the putting things up in space. It's connecting to this inward, beautiful, peaceful information that's all there. And so that changed his life. You could see why he just became on fire with helping people. And what the Aboriginals were teaching him and practicing is what we now know as quantum physics, psychoneuroimmunology, how the mind affects the body. All these things, that's what they were already doing. They don't call it that, but that's what they were doing. And so it just shifted him into a whole different direction.
I love this so much. Gosh, where do I begin? And, it's interesting. Just this morning, I was having a conversation with my friend Karen, and she does a lot of work in the quantum field. And she's like, and my friend Annie too. They say, "Oh, I can clear cancer out of the system." The problem is that it oftentimes the shift that they can make in the body, it doesn't hold because the person goes back to how they were thinking and how they were feeling.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say about that?
That's exactly right. And that's
Yeah,
why I think, it's what the Aboriginal people taught us is that it's like picking the top of a dandelion. If you don't get to the root, it's just going to come right back again. And so
exactly.
what they're teaching us and what the secrets of Aboriginal healing talk about is uprooting through 5 steps.
Mhm.
Uprooting that, because these things that happen to us during this lifetime are here as master teachers. And we all have people who are master teachers in our life to help us. They may not be pleasant,
Mhm.
but Gary's abusive alcoholic father was a master teacher to teach him many, many things.
Mhm.
And usually master teachers are quite often a family member because
Yeah.
you're exposed to them your whole life. So it really is very simple. Again, Michelle, when we don't understand something, we complicate it, but it's very simple. It's either love-based or it's fear-based. And the fear-based emotions and thoughts, which we tend to focus on a lot, we're kind of wired that way. But fear-based emotions become toxic to the body over time because they create a different cell. They create a blockage of energy. They create a different kind of cell. And Dr. Emoto, with his photography, showed us fear-based emotions and thoughts. They're very discombobulated cells when he took pictures of them, whereas love-based are these beautiful, symmetrical, cells. So fear-based and the hardest emotions, the most toxic buildup, are self-hatred and guilt.
Mm.
Those are really hard on the body, and they're also very common. I was raised Catholic, 12 years of parochial schools. I have got guilt down. I could teach that for days. Just my default, right? It's the default
Yes.
setting. So that's a lifelong trip of recognizing it's buried under the surface. But when you have those fear-based emotions, and
Mhm.
doctors and science will tell you, stress will affect the immune system for at least 24 hours, right? So
Wow.
it
Mhm.
creates a blockage of energy. It creates a swampy, perfect breeding ground for disease. Whereas love based creates this vibrant flow, like a raging, healthy river.
Mhm.
And that's the key, is recognizing that the emotions that are fear based are going to create disease. That's fine if you want to
Yeah.
have them, but then let go of it.
Yeah.
That's the key. Let go of it and then move on. The Aboriginal people taught us how, we tend to be very afraid of emotions and like, it's just an emotion. Feel it and then let it go. What's next? Rather than hanging on to the past. The best emotions to have to heal are, well, obviously love. Love is phenomenal for
Yeah.
everything. Gratitude. Gratitude is another one of those phenomenal emotions. It's wonderful. And forgiveness. Forgive yourself, forgive whoever you're holding that, emotion that's not healthy. So if you want to know where you're getting stuck, pay attention to what triggers you into
Mhm.
negativity. Is it expectations about people, their fears around something or someone? Where do you keep getting triggered? That's your homework. That's what you're here to learn and master as a soul, because that's what we're here for in this beautiful school, is to learn and to evolve and experience, but evolve and move on. So, like the Chinese will tell you, we hold, a lot of cultures will say this, but Chinese are famous for it. They'll tell you that we hold certain emotions in certain parts of the body. We
Mhm.
tend to hold grief in our chest. Everybody, that you can feel it when you have grief. If you do not That's is what we were talking about earlier. You may have a propensity for breast cancer or heart problems in your life with genetically. If you hold a lot of grief, you are setting yourself up for some possible disease that you can unlink it or create it. And so this is why if they take the tumors out or they fix the heart attack with a shunt or whatever, if you continue to grieve and hold on to that grief emotionally, you will create it again. That's the root of the dandelion. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to recognize where you're holding on to unhealthy emotions that become toxic and create this dis-ease and shift. And we can go in later, talk about getting help from the other side of the veil to help us do that, because that's really tremendous, is when you use help from your guardian angel, your spirit guide, your loved ones who have passed over to help you do that. You don't have to do it alone. And you certainly don't have to do it with just the mind. That's a train wreck waiting to happen. And that's what most people do, is they use the mind. It's a powerful tool, but it's not designed in the way that we're trying to use it. So we can go into that a little bit if you want, but
Yeah,
there's
you're
directions.
speaking all my language, Robbie. I mean, I preach it. You and I, we need to,
Yeah.
feel your emotions. They're 90 seconds and let them go. And triggers are a gift. Triggers show you what you can't see. They show you the roots. I
Yeah,
love
they
what you're
show you the
saying.
roots. Exactly.
So explain like someone listening right now, what would be a process that they could do? Like, okay, it seems to me that the mind or would you say the mind is the ego? I don't know what terminology you would
It
use
can
around,
be, yeah,
you know,
sure.
um, it gets so latched onto, but my father did this to me, or my mother is a narcissist, or my ex-husband or ex-wife is blah, blah, blah. And we get so invested in that story, or my boss treats me this way. It's not fair. And we are in that victim. And there's some part of us that doesn't know how to let that go and move on from
Right.
there. So, what do you say to somebody that just, it's like there has to be a shift to help us to let go of
Yes.
that victim? And no, who wants to be sitting in the victim? No, nobody. But ultimately, sometimes, quite often for some of us, we land there. So, what do we do about that?
And I'm thrilled that you asked that, because that's so important. So many people know my mind is the problem. They know
Yeah,
that, but they don't know how to
totally.
shift it. So what it is you learn to shift your focus.
Hmm.
Shift your focus. The question you should be asking that will help you find the answers is, why is this in my life? How is this helping me grow and evolve as a soul? Because we are souls having a human experience. It's not the other way around. We're not humans with a soul. We are souls embodied currently in a human form on this tremendous earth school.
Yeah.
And you recognize that we're all equal as souls, but some souls are less evolved than older souls. Older souls may tend to be born into a family of younger souls. And there's no judgment about any of it. That's just where we all are. And maybe they're here. Maybe this abusive father is here to learn about the powerlessness of alcohol.
Hmm.
And maybe Gary is here to learn about forgiveness,
Right.
just as an example. So they may be here to help you get that PhD, that MD, that doctorate degree in forgiveness, finally, once and for all, and loving yourself, finding the love from within. I'll tell you, the hardest one, Michelle, for people is self-love. That is one
Right.
of the hardest ones. To me, it's like the Russian nesting dolls. That's the one on the very inside. You'll do it for other people, but will you do it for yourself?
Yeah.
You
Why
know?
is that so hard for us?
Maybe it's the way I think a lot of it's our programming. We're
Yeah.
not really taught that, although things are changing now. So maybe you are born into a family that doesn't love you enough, that tells you you're not enough, you may get this feeling from the culture, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not successful enough, I'm not smart enough, whatever it is, it's not enough.
Right.
And you might be here in that class, university, high school,
Hmm.
grade school, whatever level, to learn to love yourself no matter what. And that's where one of those things that, again, we can talk about this later, is how to get help from the other side to help you master that. But starting to recognize then this is why Gary found tremendous gratitude for the wheelchair and the MS, because he started to realize I'm focused on the wrong things. What
Mm.
I need to focus on is, why is this here? And I'll give you a true thing that happened to me. I lost a dear family member to smoking, and I got really upset with the tobacco companies who were promoting the smoking. It was killing people, and he went through a lot. He had brain tumor, and I was upset because the other family members were still continuing to smoke, and I thought, I'm going to lose all of you to smoking, and it really bothered me. So what happened was, I found myself surrounded by smokers, couldn't
Mm.
seem to get away from them, right?
Mhm.
It was endless. And then when I finally, so I'm asking for help from my team on the other side, and they help me realize they're learning something very different. They may be learning about honoring the body and what happens when you don't love that body. And that's one of the ways that they're learning that lesson. So I didn't like it. My mind didn't like it, but I accepted that, okay, this is just where they are.
Yeah.
And when I finally just accepted it, I
Yeah.
wasn't in fear based about it. The smokers went away. I didn't
Wow.
need it anymore in my life. And
Mhm.
so that's where I realized, okay, that's what I needed to learn that.
Mhm.
Check it off, master it. I don't need to be in that class. And we see a lot of people in our life and in the culture out in the world, they're in a different class, learning something very different than you are. And my sister and I have worked a lot with the homeless in the Seattle area. And I have seen some of the most advanced,
Mm.
evolved souls as alcoholics in the
Mhm.
gutter. And my guides have told me they are here to learn about powerlessness,
Wow.
deliberately signed up. And also, they're here helping others. So we
Mhm.
would give them socks or food or whatever, and they would pass them on to somebody else who they knew needed it worse than we did. So you can't judge anybody. We're not here to judge. We're only here to, what am I here to do? I am here
Mhm.
to deal with my emotions,
Yeah.
pay attention where my triggers are.
Mm. So good. So good. I'm taking so many notes. So, why does somebody, in your opinion, continue to attract the same kind of person, the same kind of experience in their lives?
Because they haven't mastered it yet.
Yeah.
They haven't graduated from that class yet, right? If I continued to rage about smokers and I just didn't get it, or my mind refused to let go, I would continue to have challenging smoker situations, and keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you finally get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, if it's often enough and you obsess about it enough, and you're, especially if your body has a propensity for a certain type of, genetic problem, you can create physical stuff with this. And it's like, okay, are you done yet? Because the body starts crumbling under these emotional
Yeah.
burdens. And
Yeah.
it can't. And so we've seen, when Gary and I were helping people, they would come to us with pages of things and we're like, are you ready to be done? Because because they can keep doing this, and
Yeah.
I know that this is kind of like, if you don't get it, it'll come back even harder. That's why I almost died twice. I wasn't getting it. I wasn't paying attention. I got sucked right back into life again. So it's like, I really don't want to be hit by a spiritual 2x4 again. So I
Mm-hmm.
asked my guides to help me get this, to help me learn it, but I really want to do it with a lot of grace, ease,
Mm-hmm.
joy. Thank you for helping me get this, so I don't
Yeah.
need to be, but if it keeps coming up, that's your homework. That's what you're here as a soul currently signed up to learn.
So, don't you feel like if we can just feel the emotion around the thing that we're dealing with out there, right? Whether it's the boss that you can't stand or the ex that you can't stand or the whatever's going on out there, I say out there, I'm pointing outside of myself.
Yeah.
If we could feel that emotion, the root emotion, that's the root, that's the dandelion root you're
Yes.
talking about. And then the
Yes.
mind can let go, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
one of the Aboriginal steps, is you have to have an awareness. If you don't know it's there, you can't really heal it very easy. So the
Right.
more you have an awareness, the faster you will heal.
Yeah.
So the first step is willingness. You need to be willing to change. And we are wired to not like that. But just one little step at a time. And that's why I love that the books take you through that, one little step at a time, and becoming aware. And if you're not aware, ask your team, your guides, or even your mind, help me become aware of where I'm getting into, where my mind is sabotaging me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you know when you go into fear, when you go into that, that reaction that's not healthy. Why? Why am I
Yeah.
doing that? Maybe you have expectations that certain people, especially your children, should be a certain way. And they
Mm-hmm.
are here signed up for something very different. Teaching you maybe about acceptance. Maybe that's what you're here to master. Maybe you're
Mm.
finally here to
Okay.
get your doctorate degree in acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So let them, so you can
Yeah.
imagine what's going to get thrown at you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Again, I think about people that are trying to heal and all this. It's like, if you're not willing to accept and be willing in all of these things, I don't care how many supplements you're taking. I don't care what you're doing, right?
Exactly.
Because the power there's more power in, or there's more energy, of course, in the emotion, right? And then the thought around all of this.
Exactly. And what
Yeah.
I think what people need to understand is it's not just about wellness physically. By learning how to let go one at a time, where the last of the, I call them like the dust bunnies, right? Under the bed. These are like for some of us, they're the last ones that we really need to get through, that we've been very resistant to getting through. And this might be the
Mhm.
lifetime where you really get it, right? You
Yeah.
really let go because it's so bad you have to.
Mhm.
That's the way some of us operate. But what you'll find is the more you go on this journey, the more not just that you heal physically, but that you find peace.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
just, you're not, I used to feel a lot of stress with my job, my lifestyle. I had it down, man. I just couldn't. I loved, like, how many things can I juggle at once? I
Mhm.
like it when all the lines on the phone are lit up, right? That was what my mind was telling me. What I found out was, by letting go of that stuff, I don't go into stress anymore. I don't. And when I do tap into it, I'm like, wow, this feels really awful. And I lived in it most of
Yep.
my life, right? The first 30 years anyway. So
Mhm.
that's when you're moving towards wellness in body, mind, spirit. And the more you listen to, what does the soul want for you to learn? What does the soul want for you to master? What does it keep serving you? Right?
Mhm.
That's what you're here. That's
Mhm.
what you're here for. Other people are in their own classes, and sometimes you may find yourself jumping into those classes like, no, I think I signed up for enough. I don't really need to join that one too. So,
I love this whole perspective. It's really empowering. It really takes you from victim to empowerment when you look at it from a perspective of, what is in this for me? Like, what is going, my soul has created this for me.
yes.
It's for me. So if it's for me, let me take a good look at what's out in front of me, the people in my life, the illnesses that I have, whatever's going on in your life. How could this be for me? And when you
Exactly.
ask yourself that question, it's like, wait a minute, that means I got to take responsibility. That's where the power, it becomes very empowering.
Mhm.
So there's no judgment, blame, but wow, I love it.
And that's a big shift. And that's what you're doing, is you're refocusing the mind
Yeah.
from that fear or negativity to gratitude. You may
Mhm.
not feel it at the time, but at
Yeah.
least you're neutral, right?
Yeah.
So that you're not triggered, because where your triggers are showing you exactly where you're still stuck. And
Mm.
you might have a really big dust bunny under the bed that's just been pushed to the back, and it's like, it's time to clear it. Your soul is telling you it's time to clear that and move beyond and master. It's really
Yeah.
a mastery in love. And the beauty of this planet, I don't know that people really appreciate, it's a free will planet.
Yeah.
You can choose to, and there's so much love around all of it. It's like, you don't, if you choose not to learn it in this lifetime, that's fine. There will be others. It's going to keep ramping up until you get it.
Hmm.
But it's just about recognizing that the mind is a tool designed to help the soul. The mind is really not designed to be in charge. It
Mm.
doesn't know the best
Mhm.
career, the best relationship. It doesn't know how to be the best mother or the
Mhm.
best partner. The soul does, and the soul, that inner wisdom, guides the mind on how to do that. It guides the mind. but the mind wants to
Yeah.
be at the head of the table all the time. It wants to be behind the driver's wheel all the time.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into trouble. And the world is showing us what happens when the mind's in charge. A lot of negativity, a lot of fear, a lot of wars. That's the mind. And it's a free will school. Fine, you're learning that, but you can still find peace no matter what. You can
Mm.
find peace no matter what's happening in the world, no matter what's happening to your loved ones, recognizing they signed up for this.
Mm-hmm.
They're here to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get hung up on, oh, I can't believe that my kids have to go through this because I'm divorcing the father and I feel horrible, the guilt. Remember the guilt again?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you have to remember as souls, they signed up for this because this is exactly what they needed and wanted to learn.
Such a good point. People forget that we're here. We're in soul school. We're down here in school. We're not here to have these perfect, whatever perfect means, lives. That's not what we came here to do. And I have talked to so many people over the years that have said, I just don't want to give my kids any issues to work through like I have. And I'm like, but they came in here to experience that. You can't not like
Right.
that's why they came in, correct?
Exactly. That's why they're
Yeah.
here. That's why they're here in your life. And so this is where I ask my team, my spirit team, well, then help me be the best mother I can possibly be.
Hmm.
Help me know how to support him or
Hmm.
her in the best way. And because again, the mind doesn't know how to do that. It's not trained for that. It's not designed for that. But the mind knows how to put into action what the soul is feeding you. But the
Hmm.
mind is incessantly busy, and it's hard to hear and feel that quiet wisdom within. That's why
Hmm.
meditation is becoming so popular, because it's about getting that mind to quiet down so you can feel that inner wisdom. And that's the key, is to learning how to quiet that mind more so that you can become more aware what's really going on.
Hmm.
So loud and it's so noisy and busy. We've just really got to feel that inner guidance.
The more we sit in fear or overwhelm, the louder it becomes because it's trying so hard to fix what's out there and your stress. And it's like, that's just not the pathway to do that. And I find we do more and more and more and more and more. It's like, that's not the answer, right?
Right, exactly. And again, the mind is a tool for the soul, but it's not, the mind isn't designed to know how to move. It doesn't know how to let go of this stuff. It doesn't know how to move on. It doesn't know how to, you know, solve something, but this inner wisdom is there available to you. And we have, every single person has a guardian angel by their side
Hmm.
or more, but
Hmm.
they have one that never ever leaves their side, that is there
Hmm.
to help them. We're designed to be working in a relationship with them, a symbiotic relationship. That guardian angel is there, kind of like a first responder, always there helping and assisting,
Hmm.
making sure that you're not going through something that your soul does not intend for you to go through, making sure that you're not injured or hurt or killed if it's not your soul's intention to go through that at the moment. That's what the guardian angel is there for. But it's a free will planet. They will not interfere and intervene unless it's something like that. But they are here to help you. But this is the key, because it's a free will planet, we have to invite them, give them permission to assist us. And all it takes is just asking in your mind one time,
Hmm.
thank you. It's not a prayer. It's not a, oh, please. It's a thank you. Thank you for helping me let go of this. Thank you for helping me let go of whatever doesn't serve me. I don't even need to know what that is. Thank you for helping me open up to what's in my best interest to open up. Thank you for helping me live the highest vision of my soul. Thank you for helping me be the best parent, mother, sister, partner, businesswoman I can possibly be. And then they will help. And here's the key. When when we wrote the book Angels in Waiting, I had a co-writer in New York,
Hmm.
and I kept saying, I wrote her that the angels have told me that getting their assistance is like operating at 5 amps of power on your own versus 5,000 amps of power with their help. And she kept
Wow.
changing it because she thought that can't be right. And I'm like, she changed it to 500 or what. I'm like, no, it's 5,000 amps of power. It's huge. That to me is a big life changer. big
Mm-hmm.
life changer is when you start working as a team, which we were designed to do. We've always had this help available, but it's up to you whether you choose to use it or not. And you're not, they don't have any judgment or impatience with us. They love to help us. They love us beyond our wildest imagination. And not only that, but they can make it so much easier and grace filled and no more two by fours against the head if you listen and employ their and use what they're guiding you with. This is the part I love, Michelle. When we allow our angels or spirit guides or deceased loved ones, whomever, but guardian angels are the easiest to communicate and work with. That's who we're designed to be working with. When we allow them to help us, because we've asked for help, they grow and evolve because they're serving us out of tremendous love. And as we grow, then they grow. So it's this
Mm.
symbiotic relationship that allows them to evolve by asking for help. And it's not that you're not worthy or they're not listening. They're just responding in the time, in the way that's best, because they have to go along with what does the soul want. If you're asking them to heal you and you haven't really gotten the message behind the illness, they are not allowed to heal you yet, but they have permission to help you recognize what the lessons are behind it and to move through that. Then they can help you with the physical as well. So they help you with all of it, the whole thing.
Mm. So
Put
when,
them to work.
yeah, I've always heard that you have to ask your angels or they do not get in the way or they will not intervene. We have to ask.
Because it's a free will planet.
It's
There's
free
nothing
will.
wrong with
Yeah.
pain. There's nothing wrong with learning all that. There's so much
Yeah.
love behind it. Yeah.
So how did you and Gary, did you guys together work with clients or patients or
We did.
how did that work? Were you just really, was he looking in the body? It was so crazy because he had none of these abilities. So comes
Yeah.
back from Australia and then starts developing all these gifts. Like, was that scary for him or was he overwhelmed or what was that like?
Well, I mean, this is where the scientist just got flipped, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it really, I think he slowly kind of, um, now I didn't know him at this point. He came back. He was here for, I think he'd been a healer for about a couple of years before I met him. But he started slowly tapping into what the Aboriginals had taught him,
Hmm.
and he would connect to his angel, Julie. And he started being able to hear her more and more. At first, it was really slow, and it usually is for most people. It was for me too,
Hmm.
where he would get a tug on his earlobe if it was yes or no, or both if it's maybe. And
Hmm.
eventually, he got to the point where he developed that muscle, that intuitive muscle. And we all have that. Every one of us is clairsentient, where we can feel with the body, especially the goosebumps, whatever. We can feel that guidance.
Yep.
He started developing that, and then he would start becoming the eyes for his healing angel that worked through him. So he was the one who would put his hand like at the base of the skull if he was healing
Hmm.
something in the brain, or at
Hmm.
the base of the spine if he was healing the spine.
Hmm.
He was there to counsel the person and let them know what Julie was talking to him and letting them know this is where they're getting stuck. This is what they're here to learn. This is why this person is in their life to help them master that.
Mm.
So he
Wow.
would start communicating with them. And and then he started developing the ability to see inside the body, to see the tumors, to see the cancer cells, to see all of that, and communicate with the subconscious, always with permission, always
Hmm.
with permission.
Hmm.
And that's the first thing we asked when we would work on people is, do we have permission from the soul to
Yep.
help with this?
Hmm.
Sometimes it was a no. Like I remember this, and we talk about these different healing stories in the Awakening book, Aboriginal Secrets
Yes.
of Awakening. There was this blind child that came to us, just adorable. The grandparent brought this child to us and wanted Gary to heal it because he had developed quite a reputation by this point.
Hmm.
And the soul said, not completely, not
Oh.
completely, because that child was born that way because of what it would experience through that blindness. It's
Mm.
a whole different world, and that grandparent was there to help them experience that, work together. Like the
Hmm.
grandfather and I would lay under the tree. They'd lay together, this young child and this grandfather under the tree, and the grandfather would describe what that was like.
Mm.
And this is what they both had signed up for. They had soul contracts to work together, to experience this together. So Gary was able to help in some ways. The eyes were detached, the retinas were detached. He
Hmm.
was able to detach them or to
Hmm.
attach them, but he
Hmm.
was not allowed to bring, and so it wasn't going to happen completely because it wasn't the soul's journey. And you
I
can
love.
understand.
Oh gosh, it's such a beautiful spiritual perspective. Again, being human, we may be like, well, can Gary must not be a good healer, but it's like, no, if your soul is here to have that experience, then no, that's not going to work.
Right.
So, but
Right. It
it's
has
not that
nothing
it's
to do with
because
you.
there are higher reasons for it, you know? I
Right.
love that. Mm.
But most people, and this is the what I want a lot of people to hear, most people are designed to get well.
Mm.
These are lessons that it's gotten your attention. It's helping you. Are you finally done with this? And
Hmm.
so, but if you wait too long, where your body is just so, it's just too late. It can't. That's why I said you have to have the body, the emotions, and the soul on board. And sometimes the body is just not. It's just been too long. It's too damaged. But usually it's the emotions. Usually it's the
Really?
emotions that are holding you back from healing. Right.
So again, the way to tackle those emotions is just to go after that root, really sink in and feel whatever it is coming up around that thing that's bringing you stress or overwhelm or guilt or shame or whatever, correct?
Correct. And you can ask your guardian angel, please, in a fun, grace filled way, right? Um, Help me recognize where I'm getting stuck and help me move beyond it. So I don't need
Hmm.
it in my life anymore. I can move on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for helping me do that. And again, it's that 5 amps versus 5,000. It is so much more powerful when you engage their assistance.
Mm.
Huge.
I want to move on to talking to your angels because I think it's beautiful. Your two books on that. I want to ask you just because I would think that people, if they read the book, they're going to be like, wait, if Gary's this, worldwide healer, why did he die when he died?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. He passed, and it was kind of interesting. They told us he spent hours communicating to the other side, just like the Aboriginals. He
Yeah.
spent hours communicating to the other side. And at one point, he came to me very upset. He said, "They're telling me that I'm going to leave in about 6 months
Mm.
because I can be more helpful from the other side."
Interesting.
He had learned what he needed to. And so now it was time to leave, and he would be assisting from the other side. We were pretty upset about that, and it took a while. But then we
Hmm.
kind of, after months, we realized if you can help more from the other side, then we need to just do this with grace, and we did. And so he left, but I didn't expect, Michelle, that he would be helping me from the other side like he was. He would show up every morning. Now, I never really developed these abilities at the time because he was so good. Why would I even,
Right.
but he started showing up in this at 8 o'clock. He was always very punctual, married to me, who was not. And he showed up at 8 o'clock every morning, exactly 8 o'clock, except one time the time zone, he was off an hour, but I think it was just a joke.
It was like wasn't it like daylight savings or something? So he
Yeah,
showed
he's
up
in
at
the
the wrong
spring.
time.
Yeah, yeah, he was an hour late, but
Yeah.
I think he just did it as a joke. But anyway, so he started helping me connect and develop my own abilities. I didn't realize I was a medium and I had the ability to connect and that sort of like he did.
Hmm.
And so he just kind of, and as our angels will do the same for us, just kind of slowly, gently guided me into this. Where
Hmm.
I would ask, I put his wedding ring and used it as a pendulum for yes or no. And then
Hmm.
eventually you start developing these abilities. But I think a lot of people, where they get hung up and they think they're not being responded to or that's not working, is they're expecting to hear or see the guides and angels. And that's very rare. Most
Hmm.
people don't have that ability. But every single one of us is clairsentient, where you can feel. So you do that gut check. In 3 seconds if it's a yes or a no.
Yep.
If it's beyond 3 seconds, now the mind is engaged, helping,
Yeah.
right?
Air quotes
Air
helping.
quotes on helping. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and people get tingling, and so everybody's different. You might get, some people get it on the top of their
Yeah.
head,
I get the
the hair goes
impression.
up on the, or their,
Mhm.
that's how you start to develop that relationship. Ask them,
Mhm.
thank you for helping me develop a stronger relationship with you, and thank you for helping me really pick up on your messages more easily. thank you for helping me recognize the signs more often. And,
Mm,
it's one of those where you start picking up on it, just like if you decide to get a certain car and all of a sudden they're everywhere, right? Or you're pregnant, you
right.
see pregnant women or the babies. And we talk about in Angels in Waiting and the Living Your Best Life with Help from Your Guardian Angels. Both of those are books to help you develop that relationship. The Living Your Best Life with Help from Your Guardian Angels is like a 60-day guidebook. It's like a quick Reader's Digest, whatever. That's showing my age, Reader's Digest. It's condensed.
Hey, I understand what I remember those.
Yeah, but it'll show you how to develop that relationship. And we're designed to do that. We're
Yeah.
designed to have this help, but most people don't take advantage of it. And it's huge.
Yeah, and you really break it down as far as how you do that. And there's an element of trust too, because I think most people say, I can talk to my angels. Yes.
Yes, we're
Yes,
designed
you
to.
can.
And the
Yeah.
guardian angels are the easiest to communicate with. That's why
Yeah.
they're there. And also, I'm glad you brought up trust, Michelle, because a lot of people they don't trust themselves and they don't trust who they're connecting to on the other side. They're
Yeah.
afraid they're going to get a bad entity or be taken over. We're not going down that alley. If you engage in a lot of addictive behavior, that can become dangerous.
Hmm.
But we're not going down that. We're having the intention of connecting to our loved one who has passed over, and you're not bothering them. They can do many things at the same time, or your spirit guides. But that they suggest that we connect to the guardian angel first. That you don't need to go any farther than that. Like I said, they're the
Yeah.
first responders. If they need more help, they'll bring it in.
Yeah.
When I was writing, I would get a different spirit guide. And sometimes some guides were really challenging to work with. And I had to finally say, you know what? I need the one I worked with last week because this is just, yeah.
I
So
love
you
that.
work with them, you work together as a team. That's huge.
Yeah.
As a team.
And I think when we're really open to that, because I think a lot of people would say, well, that's not going to happen for me. It will if you're open to it and you start noticing all the signs all around us at all times. I mean, there are so many signs. I think of it like an Easter egg hunt.
Yes.
You
Yes.
just have to look a little bit. And it's like, wait, people go, oh yeah, every time I look at the clock, it's 1:11 or 11:11 or 2:22 or 3:3. It's like, okay, that's a sign. But did you notice on the radio you heard a song and that one line really resonated with what you're going through and so called you at the right time. It's like when we start paying attention, gosh, the whole day is filled with signs and we realize how connected we actually are with them.
Right. And it's constant and it's so easy. It's
So
child's
easy.
play. It's
Yep,
child's play for them because this is a third dimensional. They're operating at a different level. This is why they have to be
totally.
so careful and use and have our free will because it is such a different world. I'll tell you this one. I remember wanting to lose some weight and first of all getting off the sugar train. I was a
Yeah.
big sugar addict. And so I asked them to help me. And I was getting an ice cream cone with my sister. We walked out of the Baskin Robbins ice cream shop and I got the cone and I went to take one lick and it just toppled off the ice cream toppled off the cone and it landed in the asphalt parking lot and it just rolled away. And my sister started laughing and she said, let's just go back and get you another one. I'm like, no, I get the message. They're telling me it's a free will choice. You don't have to abide by it, but they're letting me know you really don't want to eat that.
They
You're
flicked that right off.
I can do it.
That was so
Yeah,
good.
I know.
I know we just have a few minutes left here, but talk a little bit about, if you can, what's happening right now on the planet as far as, we've been in 3D reality, which is third dimension, which is explain even a little bit about what that is and where we're moving, because it's
Yeah,
quite obvious there's a massive awakening happening on the planet right now,
right,
not just in the United States, but the whole planet. And it's an
right.
energy that's happening. So please, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because it's big. It's a big
It's
thing. And
huge. Yeah.
there is a mass awakening and but it's not on the news. You don't hear about it.
No, you hear the opposite on the news.
Yeah,
You hear all the
exactly.
fear and all the 3D stuff on the news versus
Right.
what's really going on. But
Well,
yeah,
and this may be so what you know how some people they will get in a car accident or they have a heart attack and it shifts them and changes their lives.
yeah,
Now they're focused on what's important. We're kind of going through that, right now on the planet.
exactly. Yeah.
And because the planet is shifting from a third dimensional, lower vibration, very fear based existence into ultimately a fifth dimensional planet. And that's what it will service as a higher frequency, a higher vibration of love, which is what the remote Aboriginals were at. They're at fifth dimension, where they don't,
Yeah.
there's no competition, there's no judgment, there's just love and wanting to be of service to others. That's
Wait
where
a
they are.
minute. Say that again, because that is how they live, and they live without illness in these tribes. I mean,
Right.
no judgment. They also wait. Something else you said, or I read it in the book, was there's no me or possessiveness.
Exactly. They don't have a word for any possessive. There's no my.
I love that.
Yeah. And they teach them from a very young age. There's no ego.
And this is what I was just going to ask you. It sounds like
Yeah.
there's no ego over there. They don't
Right.
cultivate that in that
Exactly.
society.
And they certainly aren't competitive and they're not judgmental. And so they're very much in wanting to be in service to others and love, very balanced. They spend a lot of time connecting to the other side all the time because that's really important. They know that the other side is more real than this is.
Yeah.
So that's what Gary came back with and started to spend hours every day communicating with the other side and learning all that. So what's happening is the planet is shifting into a higher frequency. And that's also, I mean, you can get into the fact that we have a clear connection to the Milky Way, the center of the
Hmm.
Milky Way galaxy, which we have not had for thousands of years. And it creates this vibration, these frequencies that are hitting the planet. And
Yeah.
it's a higher frequency like love. And so
Hmm.
it's kind of making it very uncomfortable for people who are in the lower frequencies, the lower fear-based, and they're
Yep.
hanging on and they
Yep.
are fighting it. And that's fine, that's their journey. But what our journey, I know for me, my journey is to stay in positive,
Hmm.
love-based emotions, bringing peace. That helps. We're tuning forks, right? If we're
Yep.
in fear, it's going out and it's affecting others. But if you're in peace
Hmm.
and love and forgiveness, that's also going out and affecting others. You might be lighting their light a little bit brighter. It's up to them how long they can hold that brighter light. No judgment there. And then you move on. And then you might be lighting somebody else's or they're lighting you. I always pay attention to who I'm sitting next to in a plane, right?
Yeah. Yeah. People have asked, I have a membership. It's called the Academy of Awakening. And some questions came in just last month around this. Like, well, how are we supposed to stay so positive when there's so much negativity? And specifically in the United States, there's politics. We're not going to get into it, but you're either really happy about Trump or you're really infuriated about Trump. And we've got so many weather disasters going on. And people were asking, how do we stay positive? How do you expect us to stay in peace when there's so much chaos?
Right. It
So,
sounds like that. Remember, I said somebody came to us with 2 pages of things. It's like, are you ready to get rid of this now? Two
yeah,
pages of symptoms
yeah,
and problems. And
yeah,
that's where we are, is we are shifting.
yep,
And it's up to you. Everybody's at a different pace,
yep,
and there's no judgment about that.
yep.
But you start paying attention to what kind of energy am I adding?
Hmm.
What kind of energy am I adding to this, and what kind of vision? Because we do create, we're very powerful creators. What am I creating? And that's why we're here. And I think an awful lot of the people listening to you and to us are
Hmm.
here to help add to create the future that we want to see. Now,
Yep.
I ask my guides all the time. I have a 9-year-old grandson. Are some of the things that I want to see going to happen in his lifetime? And they're like, yes.
Hmm.
I'm 70. They're like, you won't see some of these things that you want to see happen, but your son who's 40 will see some of that, but your grandson will see
Hmm.
a lot of that. So
Mm.
that's where we're heading, but we're at the birth pains right now of
Yeah,
creating Earth and a new
yeah.
human as well.
Oh my gosh, I've heard incredible things about what's coming. Like as far as healing goes, by the way, like speed
Yes,
healing. I mean, we're not going to age. Like all of these things I keep hearing about. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I
yes.
think we have to remember that we have a choice to always choose that love or fear. And again, if you're getting triggered, that's that on a silver platter, something to look at, something to feel, and then choose away. Turn
And
off the
ask your and
news.
ask and ask your guides to help you with that.
Yes.
Ask your
Yeah.
guardian angel, why do it
Yeah.
alone? Thank you for helping me let go of this.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me have beautiful love-based emotions.
Yeah.
No beatings, no,
Yep.
when you don't.
Yeah. I just did a whole live talk a couple of weeks ago on our heart center, the center of our chest being it's like our superpower. So
Yes.
Gosh, and when we start paying attention to that feels good, this feels bad, that feels good, it's literally a built-in navigation system. Pay attention. Like if your heart starts to close when you're in conversation with someone, it doesn't feel good. Stop the conversation, walk away, go into gratitude, whatever you need to do. Turn off the news, turn off the whatever you're listening to on the radio, like whatever doesn't feel good. Stop
Right.
doing it. Like we have to be in charge of our lives in
Right.
order to, again, we don't want to, of course, be sick, but to stay healthy, even. We want to stay in love. It doesn't mean we're living with our head in the ground either. It just
Correct.
means we're living with discernment.
And you bring up an excellent point that the body and the emotions are connected. They are
Yes.
connected. And so your body will not lie. Your
Nope.
mind will, but your body will not lie. And if your body is uncomfortable, I guarantee it's creating some kind of damage. It's
Yeah.
not creating what you want. So yes, walk away, change the subject, whatever. But the
Hmm.
body is here to guide you and tell you. And if you're really not paying attention, it will break down and make it easier. And that's not true for everybody, that every illness is because they're not getting it. No, some people came into experience, like Gary needed to experience that MS. So you
Right.
don't know. But again, ask the guides, your guardian angel, well, help me not need this. Help me heal it.
Mm.
Thank you.
Mm. Robbie, Robbie, Robbie. Whew. I love this so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Where do people find out? And I know you don't do individual sessions anymore, but the path to healing is found, of course, in these books, and they're so fun to read. They're so easy to read. Um, where do people, you have a website though? Where can we
I
send
have a
people?
website. It's holzwellness.com,
Okay.
HOLZ
Mm-hmm. Okay.
wellness.com. There's a lot of information up there. We put an awful lot of free information because this is the passion, is to help everybody
Yep.
heal and move on and pass that information on. There's an online healing course.
Okay.
There are 4 books, the 2 about the angels and then the 2 about the Aboriginal healing and awakening. There's an awful lot of information in the blogs.
Mm,
holtzwellness.com.
okay.
We tried to just put as much out there as possible to help people.
Yeah. And honestly, what you guys talk about in the books is it's pretty darn, I mean, it's common knowledge, but not practiced. I should say that, right? It's
Yeah.
not like you're doing anything insane to help people to heal, like, but you have a lovely step process that will help people. And yeah, and so much of what we talked about today. So thank you. Absolutely, everybody get these books because I gotta tell you, I do Audible, and I mean, I was like in 3 days through the two Aboriginal healing books. It was such a story. Oh my God, Gary's story
Yeah.
is incredible. So thanks,
Yeah.
thanks so much for being on today. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. It's so nice to meet you, and thank you for the work that you're putting out into the world. It's so needed.
And right back at you, Michelle. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank
Very
you.
needed.